As the chill of winter began to settle over the land, Myne and Lutz found themselves deeply engrossed in preparations for Trombe, a task that had become essential as the days grew shorter and colder. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of damp earth and the faint, sweet smell of decaying leaves, a reminder that nature was entering a new phase. The trees, stripped of their vibrant foliage, stood like skeletal sentinels against the gray sky, their branches swaying gently in the brisk wind. Lutz, his brow furrowed with worry, voiced his concern about having to work alone, since Myne's family had requested she cease her assistance outside. His voice carried a hint of anxiety, reflecting his fear of being overwhelmed by the workload without her companionship, which he had come to rely on for both practical and emotional support. Myne, ever the optimist, quickly reassured Lutz, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We can work together in the storage building," she suggested, her tone light and hopeful, as if she could already envision the warmth of their shared space. "It'll be much warmer inside, and we can use well water instead of the river to peel the bark." The thought of collaborating brought a smile to her face. She cherished the camaraderie they shared during their projects, and the prospect of escaping the cold filled her with a sense of excitement. To make the day even more enjoyable, she proposed the idea of bringing along some potatoes to steam for a snack, her mouth watering at the thought of the warm, fluffy bites that would accompany their hard work. Lutz's face lit up with surprise at the mention of butter, a luxury they rarely indulged in, but he quickly agreed to bring some the next day, his curiosity piqued and his spirits lifted by the promise of their culinary adventure. Afterward, when Myne returned home, she excitedly recounted her plans to her mother, Effa, and her sister, Thule. She animatedly described Benno's request for winter handiwork and the enticing offer of payment for their help in making hairpins. The prospect of earning some coins sparked a sense of purpose in her family, and they eagerly agreed to lend their skills, their eyes shining with enthusiasm at the thought of contributing to their household. Late into the night, the three of them gathered around the small wooden table, sewing flowers with colorful threads, the soft sound of fabric rustling punctuating their lively conversation. Myne found herself inspired by her family's enthusiasm, even as she struggled to keep pace with the speed of her mother and sister. Thule, with her nimble fingers, quickly completed one hairpin, while Effa nearly finished two, her hands skillfully weaving the threads. Myne, though slower, felt a sense of pride in the work they were producing together, the bond they shared growing stronger with each stitch. When the clock struck late, Myne reached into her pocket and handed them each 2 middle coppers for their hard work, the weight of the coins a tangible reward for their efforts. The gleam of the coins seemed to add a glow to their accomplishment, and her mother and sister beamed with satisfaction, their smiles brightening the dimly lit room. The next morning brought a delightful surprise for Myne. She discovered 2 finished hairpins waiting for her, a testament to her mother's dedication as she realized that Effa had stayed up late to complete them. Myne felt a rush of gratitude and affection wash over her, paying her mother for the work with a smile before setting off to meet Lutz. The anticipation of selling the finished hairpins with him filled her with excitement, the thought of their success intertwining with her dreams. When Lutz arrived, he brought only 5 pins with him, which led Myne to inform him about the hairpins already completed. The look of surprise on his face was priceless, and she couldn't help but chuckle at his reaction, the sound lightening the atmosphere around them. She reminded him of the butter he promised to bring, the small details of their plan bringing a sense of familiarity and comfort to their routine. Together, they made their way to the storage building, where they would prepare to steam the Trombe wood. Myne's heart raced with a blend of excitement and anxiety as she set about carving crosses into the potatoes. The rhythmic motion of her hands was almost meditative, and she relished the quiet focus of the task as she placed the potatoes in the steamer alongside the wood, the anticipation of their meal growing with each passing moment. While the fire crackled and heated the pot, Myne busily sewed flowers, her needle darting in and out of the fabric, while Lutz sharpened bamboo strips, his concentration evident as he checked the potatoes. The atmosphere was filled with a mix of warmth from the fire and the earthy aroma of the wood, making the small space feel cozy and inviting, a sanctuary from the cold world outside. Lutz soon opened the steamer, and a cloud of steam billowed out, enveloping them in warmth and carrying with it the rich scent of cooking potatoes that danced in the air. Myne, excited to taste their creation, tested the potatoes with a stick, the soft texture confirming they were perfectly cooked. She carefully transferred them to a wooden board, where Lutz eagerly applied butter to the steaming potatoes, the golden richness melting into the fluffy flesh, a small luxury that felt like a grand feast in their humble setting. Initially, Lutz seemed disappointed that they were merely potatoffels, but the moment he tasted one, his expression transformed into one of sheer amazement. The smoky flavor from the Trombe wood infused the potatoes with a unique taste that was unlike anything he had experienced before, each bite sending waves of warmth and comfort through him. Myne watched, her heart swelling with joy as she saw his reaction, and they shared a moment of laughter over their culinary success, their bond strengthening over the simple yet satisfying meal. As they ate, Myne took the opportunity to tell Lutz about the speed at which her family sewed, and she turned the conversation toward his pin-making progress. Lutz sighed, revealing that his family had yet to help him with the task, their disinterest clear and heavy on his heart. Myne, always one to lighten the mood, jokingly offered to cast a magic spell on his family, her voice filled with playful mischief that lit up his expression. The light-hearted banter between them was comforting, a reminder of their friendship amidst the pressures they faced, the warmth of their connection a balm for their worries. After their meal, they settled into studying math together, an arena where Lutz could shine. He practiced addition problems diligently, his brow furrowing in concentration, while Myne focused on finishing her hairpin, the late morning sun spilling through the storage building's windows and illuminating their workspace with a warm glow. By noon, the Trombe wood had been thoroughly steamed, and they took it to cool in the well water before peeling off the bark, their hands working in unison as they completed the task, the rhythm of their movements harmonious and satisfying. However, their sense of accomplishment was abruptly shattered when Myne suddenly experienced a heat attack, the familiar sensation washing over her like a wave of despair, a tidal force that pulled her under. Lutz, his face a mask of concern, rushed to her side, desperation evident in his voice as he tried to help her. Myne collapsed, breathless, and in that moment of vulnerability she confided in him, saying it was the devouring that was causing her distress, her words punctuated by the rapid rise and fall of her chest. She explained that these episodes were becoming more frequent, her voice trembling slightly as she admitted her fears, the weight of her condition pressing down on her like an anchor. Lutz, visibly upset, offered to carry her to Benno's store, his determination to help her shining through his worry, a fierce protectiveness igniting within him. Myne felt a swell of guilt at his concern. She didn't want him to feel responsible for her condition, the burden of her struggles, not one he should have to bear. "Don't worry," she reassured him softly, her voice steadier than she felt, a shield against the storm of panic threatening to engulf her. "I still want to make a book." The determination in her words seemed to ease some of his worry, though he still looked troubled as they made their way to the store, the urgency of their situation hanging heavily in the air around them. When they arrived, they found Benno and Mark preparing to leave, their conversation a blur of business. In a sudden motion, Benno tossed Myne to Mark, who caught her with surprising ease, his grip firm yet gentle. Lutz watched with a mixture of confusion and concern as Benno pulled him aside for a private conversation, his mind racing with thoughts of Myne's fragility. Mark carried Myne inside, where he prepared tea, the steam rising in gentle curls that filled the air with warmth and comfort, a sanctuary from her mounting fears. Myne and Mark began discussing the sale of the hairpins, her heart racing at the thought of their success, and when Lutz emerged from his conversation with Benno, he looked calmer, relief washing over Myne as she showed him the money they had earned. Benno, ever practical, instructed them to go home and rest, but not before ordering Mark to escort them. Mark, with his usual demeanor, gladly accepted the task, carrying Myne and the money with ease, the weight of their burdens momentarily lifted. As they walked, the three of them discussed how Lutz could convince his family to help him make pins, the chatter lightening the mood as they moved through the quiet streets. Mark shared some insightful business principles with Lutz, who listened intently, his curiosity piqued by the knowledge that flowed from Mark, the camaraderie between them deepening. Myne chimed in, suggesting that he keep a record of each person's work and hide it, a clever idea that could help manage their efforts, a strategy that felt empowering. The next day, Myne eagerly visited Lutz to help him with his family and their pin making, her heart set on making a significant difference. When she arrived at Lutz's house, she wasted no time in showing his brothers the money he had earned from the hairpins. Their eyes widened in surprise, and a spark of interest ignited within them, the allure of earning their own coins evident in the way they leaned closer. Myne seized the moment, offering them the chance to make pins for her, a proposition that they eagerly accepted, their enthusiasm palpable. Lutz, taken aback by their sudden willingness to help, stared at them in disbelief, his mind racing to catch up. Myne smiled at him, wishing him good luck as she left, her heart light with the knowledge that she had made a significant impact on their motivation. For the next 3 days, Myne remained inside, her fingers busy sewing flowers, but the devouring had begun to take a toll on her body, each passing moment a reminder of her vulnerability. She experienced fevers that left her feeling weak and bedridden, each wave of discomfort reminding her of her fragile state. Despite the challenges, she managed to finish 2 hair ornaments, while her mother and sister completed an impressive 12 sets, their laughter echoing through the house like a warm embrace. The sense of accomplishment they shared was bittersweet for Myne, who felt increasingly isolated from their joyful energy, the distance between them growing like an insurmountable chasm. Determined to contribute, she ventured out to Lutz's house to pay his brothers for the pins they had crafted, her resolve pushing her through the fatigue. When she arrived, Carla, Lutz's mother, voiced her concerns about her son's merchant ambitions, her brow furrowed with worry as she looked at Myne. Myne, ever the steadfast supporter, shrugged off Carla's concerns, reminding her that it was ultimately Lutz's decision to pursue his dreams, her own admiration for his tenacity shining through. She admired his determination, even as it worried those who cared for him, the love they shared woven into the fabric of their discussions. As Lutz's brothers presented their finished pins, Myne diligently paid them for their hard work, her heart swelling with pride for their collective efforts. She offered them the opportunity to make pins for her winter handiwork, and they readily agreed, their enthusiasm infectious, a wave of motivation spreading amongst them. Afterward, she complimented Lutz on his impressive math skills, a small victory that brightened his spirits, the joy of their friendship illuminating the dimness of her illness. With the pins securely in hand, she made her way home, eager to sew the flowers onto the pins, the task feeling lighter with each stitch, a small victory against the weight of her condition. When Myne returned home, she was greeted by the sight of her mother and sister completing their last sets of flowers, their laughter filling the air with warmth and comfort. Myne felt a surge of motivation as she joined them, carefully sewing the flowers onto the pins, the rhythm of their work, creating a sense of harmony. She planned to take the finished hair ornaments to Benno's store the next day, her heart racing with excitement at the thought of the transaction, a step toward normalcy amid her struggles. The following day, Myne and Lutz walked together to Benno's store, the air crisp and invigorating as they made their way through the bustling streets, the sound of their footsteps echoing against the cobblestones. Lutz turned to Myne, his brow furrowed in thought, and asked if she knew of anything else they could sell, his voice tinged with concern for their future. The worry etched on his face was palpable as he expressed his concerns about the costs associated with curing the devouring, the weight of their shared burdens evident in the way his shoulders slumped. Myne, ever resourceful, suggested luxury products for the wealthy or improved versions of everyday necessities, her mind racing with possibilities that danced like flickering flames in her imagination. She even brought up the idea of herb candles, her enthusiasm contagious as she envisioned their potential. Just then, Benno appeared, having overheard their conversation. He wasted no time as he scooped Myne up and carried her to his office, where she lined up the hairpins on the table, their colorful blooms glinting in the afternoon light like jewels. Benno, with his usual briskness, informed them that his clients were in a hurry for the upcoming baptism ceremony, the urgency in his voice sparking a renewed sense of purpose within them. Myne, ever curious, asked Lutz what Earth Day was, her thirst for knowledge evident in her wide eyes. Benno took a moment to explain the concept of seasonal days, his voice filled with the authority of someone well-versed in the workings of their world, each word painting a vivid picture of their society. When Myne sold the hair ornaments to Benno, a sense of accomplishment washed over her, a wave of pride swelling in her chest. However, just as she began to leave, Benno halted her with a pressing question. Had she thought of any new products? Myne, her mind racing, suggested high-quality soap or fancier candles, her imagination running wild with the potential for new ideas that could spark their business into life. Lutz's excitement was contagious, and Benno grinned at the prospect of expanding their offerings, the thrill of possibility electrifying the air around them. But then, without warning, the familiar sensation of the devouring surged within Myne, intensifying to an unbearable degree, an all-consuming fire that ignited her very being. The heat exploded within her, an overwhelming wave that sent her into a spiral of panic, her breath quickening as darkness threatened to close in around her. Lutz, sensing something was gravely wrong, rushed to her side, his face pale with fear as he grasped her hand tightly. Myne shook uncontrollably, her body betraying her as she fell off her chair, the world around her fading into darkness, the comforting warmth of the room replaced by an icy dread. Benno shouted for Mark to send a messenger to the Guildmaster, his voice cutting through the chaos as Lutz begged Myne to stay strong, his heart racing with dread as he watched her weakening state. "Just hold on, Myne," Lutz pleaded desperately, his voice cracking with emotion, the fear of losing her clawing at his insides. Myne, her voice barely a whisper, weakly asked for a carriage, her spirit fighting against the encroaching darkness that threatened to consume her. But as her consciousness began to wane, their voices faded into the background, and Myne succumbed to the abyss, the warmth of her body giving way to an overwhelming chill that enveloped her like a shroud. In that moment of despair, Lutz remembered Myne's words about not letting the devouring defeat her, a flicker of hope igniting within him. He shook her gently, begging her to wake up, but her fever continued to rise, a yellowish vapor escaping from her body, a visual manifestation of the struggle within, a haunting reminder of the battle she faced. Desperation clawed at Lutz's heart as he pleaded with Benno to save Myne, his voice cracking with emotion, the world around him blurring into a haze of fear. Benno, though deeply concerned, explained that he lacked the necessary connections to provide the urgent help they needed. A flicker of hope sparked in Lutz's mind as he recalled Frida's cure, and he suggested they seek the Guildmaster's assistance, his voice filled with determination even as uncertainty loomed over them. Benno, recognizing the urgency, explained that he had already negotiated with the Guildmaster, who offered a magic tool for the steep price of 2 small golds, a sum that felt insurmountable in their desperate situation. However, the grim reality struck them as Benno revealed that the tool would only buy Myne a year at best, a temporary fix in the face of a relentless adversary. Lutz felt a wave of helplessness wash over him, his mind racing with thoughts of what to do next, the burden of responsibility weighing heavily on his shoulders. Benno, noticing his despair, challenged Lutz to take action, his voice firm and unyielding. "Don't let Myne worry about you," he urged. "Be strong for her. Make each crazy product she dreams up and find a way to make money." Lutz, though feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders, nodded, the determination igniting within him, a flicker of resolve sparking in the depths of his being. Just then, Mark rushed in, urgency in his voice as he announced that the Guildmaster wanted to see Myne immediately, the gravity of the situation palpable in the air. Without hesitation, Benno scooped Myne into his arms and made for the door, Lutz following closely behind, his heart pounding with dread as the world outside seemed to blur into an unrecognizable haze. Meanwhile, Corinna, Benno's sister, had just returned from a meeting with Baron Blond's daughter, her mind racing with thoughts of her own decisions and the weight of her responsibilities. Mark reported on Myne and Lutz's visit, and Corinna, intrigued, examined the hairpins Myne had crafted, her fingers tracing the delicate designs. She inquired about the special ones Myne had made for the Guildmaster, while Mark casually mentioned that Benno had chosen to overlook the origin of Myne's products, a testament to their value and the potential they held. As Corinna reflected on her own choices, she couldn't help but think back to the first time she had met Otto, the memory vivid and bright, a whirlwind of emotions, as she recalled his surprising proposal that had stunned her in its directness. He had gone to great lengths to win her heart, buying citizenship in Ehrenfest to court her, despite the significant cost that had weighed heavily on his shoulders. She admired his determination, remembering how he joined the city guard to prove his intentions, a gesture that had solidified her feelings for him, the love they shared blossoming amidst the chaos of their lives. Back at the well, Effa, Myne's mother, was busy doing laundry alongside her neighbor Carla, their laughter mingling with the sound of water splashing against the wooden tub. As they worked, they exchanged gossip about Myne and Lutz, the warmth of their friendship evident in every word. Carla expressed her concerns about Lutz's merchant ambitions, her voice laced with worry as she cast a glance toward the road. Effa, however, defended him, her tone unwavering as she described how kind Lutz had always been to Myne, a steadfast friend in a world that often felt uncertain. Just then, Lutz appeared, his face a mixture of anxiety and determination as he inquired about Myne, his voice low and urgent. The wives teased him lightly, their laughter filling the air as they exchanged knowing glances, the bond of their community wrapping around him like a warm embrace. Effa seized the moment to share some of Myne's recent odd behavior, revealing snippets of the struggles her daughter faced, the weight of her concerns evident in her furrowed brow. She also recounted amusing stories about Gunther's antics, the laughter shared among the women a temporary balm for their worries, a reminder of the joys that still existed amidst their challenges. As the conversation flowed, the memories of Gunther's passionate courtship came flooding back to Effa. She recalled the line that had ultimately won her over, how he had told her he became a soldier to protect the city and his family, and how he had wanted her by his side. The warmth of that memory enveloped her, even as she worried about Myne and the challenges she faced, the love that had blossomed between them, now a source of strength. Through these moments, the importance of community and friendship shone through, a reminder that they were all intertwined in their struggles and triumphs, each thread of their lives woven together in a tapestry of hope. As winter continued to blanket the world outside, Myne's journey unfolded, a story of resilience, hope, and the bonds of love that would guide her through the darkest of times, a testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity.